Good morning to each and every one of you. This is Your Questions, Your Money, Your Business here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Dagan McDowell.
And I'm Tracy Burns. And in this hour, we bring out the entrepreneur in all of you. I love this part of the show. We have an expert panel lined up to take your calls about the business you're thinking about starting, the one you're running now, any kind of help you need.
So pick up the phone, 877-249-9626, or send us an email to yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And we want to bring in, well, you know who's here. Come on, give us a shout for Dani Babb. She is here. Dani Babb of the Babb Group, author of The Accidental Startup, is here. Also, John Rutledge is going to be with us the next two. And that's one of your older books, Starting an Internet Business?
Brand new one last week.
Really?
The Online Professor's Practical Guide to Starting an Internet Business.
Wow.
Yay.
Bravo.
And John Rutledge is
She
here.
just changes the cover. She puts a new cover on
Same
the
book.
And this is his book.
Yes, right.
His book, which
Yay.
is Fox, is an excellent book.
Yay.
Lessons from a Road Warrior.
John Rutledge
good
is
one.
here. Just
Hey.
a more formal introduction of Rutledge Capital.
You have a tie on
And
today.
we
Yeah, I
have
do. We're going formal today.
we have an incredible lineup in the next couple of hours. Aaron Patzer is hopefully going to be joining us, founder of Mint.com. You want to talk about incredibly successful online business. And then restaurateurs, young, old, We've got
All
two
good.
pitches coming up, one pitch in this hour, another pitch in the next hour. So we have so much to take care of this morning. But let's take a look now at one of your business ideas. This email comes to us from Carolyn. Carolyn wrote in and said, I have a salad dressing that I used to serve at my old restaurant, and I want to bottle and sell it on a limited basis. I already have a facility for it. What else do I do? John, this goes right back to Mary down south with the sauce. And we should get one of our guests coming up later this hour is a restaurateur here in New York City. But any ideas on where to get started?
Well, first of all, the fact that you want to do this at all, Carolyn, makes you an American hero. That's where all growth, all jobs come from. But look, the best place to get this started is people who you know who will do you a favor and put that bottle in their window or serve it in their restaurant or somehow get it in people's hands and mouths to get the sales started. The trick is going to be getting a base in your own local community and then taking that to another place. Taking it to another place means you have to sell it by the carton. And when you sell it by the carton, you can actually drop ship it to another town. There you need someone who's going to help you. So we've talked about the idea of setting up between our own entrepreneurs, helping each other. Mary in Arkansas can help Sig in Las Vegas, can help Carolyn, who I'm not sure where she lives. But you need a way to move it, and we've talked about websites that help people do that. Our friend at Overstock.com has a special division for that, and there's a Foodsy.com network. But you need someone to help you move the product. But it sure would be nice to taste it, wouldn't it?
But one thing that numerous of our guests have pointed out in recent weeks is a lot of people start a business thinking, I've got this great product, but you really need to think about your audience. Is there a customer for whatever you're going to sell, Dan?
Yeah, one way that you can do that, test market that, we had a lady on who made tea, and she went to the local grocery store and said, can I have this much window space in your front window here?
She was salon tea. You're
salon
absolutely
tea, yeah, and that's one way to test market it. See what sells in a small environment like that. See what sells even on eBay, which I've seen more and more people start to do, and go from there.
Yeah.
But you're, literally set up a little folding table in the middle of the food store and serve salads.
Just free samples are an
samples.
excellent idea. I mean, I did that when I was in 10.
And let the customers sell each other for you, right?
Yeah.
Right. And another thing we should also add before we're going to have to take a break to welcome our radio listeners. But Terrence Brennan pointed out if you are experimenting with prepared food, you can rent restaurants, very often kitchen space from local restaurants, even cooking schools, in order to get in a full-on commercial kitchen rather than trying to cook it on your stove.
That's what we try
depending on
and
the
tell
health
every
regulations.
entrepreneur is these are days when it's very tough to get capital, so you want to learn to shave on the other guy's beard or whatever that is in girl talk. I don't know the right metaphor, but basically, if somebody else owns the restaurant, owns the kitchen, owns the building and all that, don't buy it from them. They've already got the problem. Help them out by giving them a little money. and use theirs.
But to me, the first thing that came to mind was like, if there's big events going on in town, offer to make the salad, put the salad dressing on, leave a bunch of bottles out.
Bottles right on the table.
Yeah, and get it out there. Church picnics, whatever you got to do to
Scouts,
get it out
Girl
there.
Scouts.
Right, whatever the fair is going right out here on 6th Avenue.
Right. Hang out on 6th Avenue.
You wouldn't believe. I am constantly amazed at every story that we hear from someone who built a small idea into a major business. It started with hitting the pavement. It started with footwork. It started with whether it's Lizzie Morell, a Fizzy Lizzie, even the biggest, John Paul DeGioia. You hit the pavement and you drive from location to location to location.
That might be the
selling it
most
one
important
bottle at a
lesson
time.
of all of our guests we've ever had on here is people think that what you need is an idea. An idea isn't what makes a business. It's good to have one, but it's the fire coming out of you that makes you get out there and do that, like Jean-Paul in the back of his car. And you just stay with it. And if you refuse to fail, sometimes you succeed.
Welcome, everybody. It's 6 minutes past the hour, and we want to welcome our listeners on Sirius and XM Radio. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Tracy Burns. This is Your Questions, Your Money here on the Fox Business Network, and we're talking about your business.
In America, your entrepreneurial business this hour. So if you want to start one or you already have one, call us with your questions. Reach us at 877-249-9626. You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And right now, again, we're talking small business with our small business experts, Dani Babb and John Rutledge of Rutledge Capital Partners. And actually, the Honest Tea guy was here, was on the web show the other day. He was on here a couple weeks ago, and he said the same.
He was our first guest.
He was our first guest, and he said the same. He walked around and handed the tea out himself, and that's how he got it out there. And now 40% of his company is owned by Coca-Cola.
That's an incredible
amazing
success story.
story.
An idea originally born. He went to business school at Yale.
His professor backed him on it. Yes, you're
that's
absolutely
right.
right.
But you don't need to go to
very nail
business
buff.
school. You can
No.
start businesses all day long with or without the business.
But it really started
Right.
because he couldn't find a tea he liked to drink.
Yeah.
All right.
It wasn't the business degree that got him going.
Exactly.
It was the
Backing of the
blue-
professor.
The blue
No,
flame.
it was like it was the blue flame that got
it
him
was
to
the
hit
blue
the.
flame. Yes. We should make shirts.
Yes.
Let's take another email. All right, the small business idea comes from Sabra. She writes, I want to open an affordable rehab center for people who want to quit smoking.
Wow.
How do I go about starting this? I have no capital to start with.
John, it sounds like when I hear center, it sounds capital intensive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
That's the sort of thing that can work just fine in a strip mall owned by somebody else. This sounds to me, Dani, a lot like the new business you've started with the tanning and teeth thing. It's the same kind of scale. How do you do it on the other guy's money?
What you do is you get, first of all, you get free rent for a period of time.
Yeah, like
you're willing to
churches and
sign a
schools,
long-term
right?
lease. Well,
What about churches and schools, the gyms?
Or landlords with empty space in their
it's
strip
option,
mall,
but
they want it full.
Landlords want it full,
Right.
and if you're willing to sign a long-term lease, 5 years or so, you can often get the first year or two free with escalating rent in year 3, year 4, year 5. Your 3, year 4, year 5 is really where you're paying all of the rent from the previous years, but you are on the hook for the other remainder of the lease if for some reason this isn't what you want to do in the next 3 years. You just have to pay that back. So you start with this. You're going to have to start with a space. You're also going to need to call the county health board and make sure that this is something that you can do without a specific license or permit. So I would go there next. They will be able to give you some more direction in terms of where do I go from here? How do I get the thing rolling? After that, it's being run very much like a traditional business, which is getting capital. And there's many ways: SBA, angel investing, friends and family, all the ways that we've talked about here. Virgin money, which is one of my favorites, and then you're gonna operate it like you would anything else, any other business. From there.
A nut job idea is that the cigarette companies are actively trying to avoid getting sued and to get money from the government. They have divisions that are smoking health now. You might just find that if you go to the website of the cigarette companies, there'll be a little foundation in there that'll give you a small amount of money to do something like this for their own public image.
And also, actually, it's a good idea because clinics, small clinics, and even Walmart, who have now clinics within their businesses, may be interested in doing something. It's a good idea.
There's opportunity everywhere, even in the corner of Walmart. Call us or email us, everybody. We're here to answer your questions about starting, running, growing your own business.
We want to hear from you. So call 877-249-9626. You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. There's way more to come with our illustrious panel. So get in touch. Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns with Dagan McDowell. We have two special guests to introduce. We have to welcome restaurateur Nicola Marzovilla. And in Cleveland, welcome venture capitalist Becca Braun.
Becca, thanks for being here. But first, Tracy's actually all smiles because she's about ready to talk about Italian food.
What could be better? And wine. Purposely did this. All right, so first
But
we have to talk.
should tell everybody.
Tell us your story. You came over. Tell us how you started the whole thing. What you used to start these restaurants. So you own I Truly Centovini here in Manhattan, and you have a wine distributor now.
Yes, we have a company called Domenico Valentino, which we started 2.5 years ago, and our main product was to reintroduce dry Lambrusco, which was a product that was imported quite a bit here in the 70s, which was a very sweet, clovey product. The actual product in Italy that's drank in Emilia-Romagna, in Bologna, is a very dry, a bit of a sparkling wine that's used at the table. So we introduced it to a new market. It is also a low, it's a cost-wise, it's a low cost item, which in the last year is really coincided with where the market is going. Good wines for less money.
So less expensive wines, but let's start, if we could, with the restaurants.
Nicola, I want you to back up, though, because you moved to the United States
in
1970 with your family, and you've built, with your mom making the pasta to this day in the kitchen, right? You've built this incredibly successful business here in New York.
My family came over in 1970. I was 10. About 15, 20 years later, my mom and I decided to get into the restaurant business. We actually took a second mortgage on our home at the time and started a small restaurant called Tempo on 29th Street. Yeah, I mean, using our background and our knowledge of the food from Puglia, we put together this venture. It was small. It developed into a much larger operation. We opened I Truly 15 years ago. And my passion in wine, we opened that restaurant with probably the largest selection of Italian regional wines, which we've then taken forward. And recently, we opened another restaurant called Centovini, where we have a smaller selection, more of a curated selection out of our wines.
Because I Truly has this wine bar attached to it that really showcases some of your wines. What was really interesting, though, when you and I were talking, was that you were able to see this whole economic turn coming even sooner than it actually happened. You started saying Bear Stearns was a very big client of yours.
Yes, actually, we were fortunate in some ways that Bear Stearns was a very good client. We had actually some personal friends that worked at the firm that gave us a lot of business. In March, after they closed, we saw a 20-30% drop in corporate business right off the bat. So we kind of got a hint of where it was going, since we also did a lot of business with Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs. What we did to kind of get ahead of it is that I went back and looked at the last 8 years of revenue, and I took the lowest sales, a 3-year average of the lowest sales that we did, and looked at that cost structure that we were running back then. And we actually made money, even though sales were much lower than they were running in the last 2 years. So we started to try and get back to that cost structure by looking at each sector and seeing where we could cut back.
So you cut your costs. You started to offer low-cost wines, cheaper meals.
What we did also on the wine list, we started featuring. Not cheaper, I would say, but
lower,
less
expensive.
Less expensive, yes, because the last 2 or 3 years, everyone was interested in the most expensive wines, the best of the best to say. But actually, regional wines kind of plays into this, that most wines that are consumed in Italy at the table are from the less expensive, lighter, fresher, younger wines. Still very, very high quality. So we started focusing on that part of our wine list, which was always probably the largest of the wine list. Just there was much less interest in the last few years.
Well, we can call in and ask Nicola questions about anything, mistakes, what you've done right over the years, what you've done wrong. But on the phone right now is Cliff, who's called in from Michigan. Cliff, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I'm 71, and my two older sons are active in the business. I also have two daughters, and wondering about after my death if it's best to have the two daughters as silent partners with the lion's shares being to the son, or sell the business to the sons and put the money back in the trust.
What kind of business is it?
It's automotive-related manufacturing.
Do your daughters want the business?
No, they want the income from the business.
Do your sons want the business?
Do your sons want the business, Cliff?
Yes, they do.
Okay. It's a legal question.
So it's a matter of whether or not you should be equitable or just give the business to the kid, to your son, because he wants it.
Well, it's a family decision about, with the daughters involved as silent partners, they don't have control, but they can see turmoil down the road
Right.
with that happening. If the other way, if we sell it to the sons and the money goes back in the trust, then it gets divided up equally.
Right.
The wife and I are kind of at odds on it because she's like the daughters to own part of the business,
Right.
but I kind of taken the other way.
Okay.
What's the size of the business, Cliff?
We probably gross after expenses around $2 million.
What's the reason that your daughters have concern about the long-term forecast? Is there a specific business reason, or is it just the automotive industry in general?
Just the automotive business in general.
Have you seen your sales drop as a result?
Yeah, we're down, but I expect it to bounce back in the next 6-8 months.
I mean, this is a family decision, like you said. My instincts would tell me, if you built this darn thing and your son wants it, your daughters could maybe share in some of the income or revenue or profits from it. I don't think I would get rid of it. That's my opinion, but this is a family decision. Do you have any thoughts, John?
Well, I think it's the most difficult decision, Cliff, when you have a business, because the blue flame that started this business is coming out of your behind when you walk down the hallway. It's sometimes can happen that the next generation can be really fired up and tremendously loyal to you, and so that can help the business run. We know the auto industry is a little bit tough these days. The reason I hesitate is I've seen more than one family that have ended up in court suing each other because they don't agree on the course of the business. So what I would do is I would make sure that one person controls what happens in that business. If that's your son or your daughter, that's your decision. But that the others get a share of the profit and any proceeds from selling it. The other thing that can get people fighting is if one is in the business and they pay themselves a big salary and the outside ones get angry. So your family being together is way more important than the amount of money.
So you really need to get it all in writing. We got more answers to your questions, so keep those calls coming.
877-249-9626. And coming up later this hour, The Pitch. You don't want to miss it.
Hey, welcome back. Let's get right to the phones. We got Bill from New York. Hey, Bill, what's your question?
Bill?
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 It's like to open up a business in a university-type setting.
Bill, what kind of business are you thinking about?
It could be anything. It could be, I went to Georgetown and noticed a couple girls opened up a cupcake business down there. A couple other people opened up something called Sweet Green, which is a salad business. My kids who are at school, they're telling me it's going gangbusters. A lot of disposable income around college universities. What do you think?
What are you passionate about? What do you want to do?
It's more of a generic question in terms of the macro drivers of a local economy, such as a university setting.
Becca, why don't you take that?
For me?
Yeah, Becca.
Sure. Oh, well, macroeconomic drivers in a university setting, I mean, I think it depends what the university environment is. There are universities in rural settings with not many students. There are universities in metropolitan settings with tons of students. So can you tell us a little more about the actual setting itself or the university?
I'm thinking more of an urban setting where you'd have a lot of pedestrian traffic, where there's a lot of disposable income, there's a lot of employable help that are young college students. It seems to me I've observed that college atmosphere, there's a lot of money changing hands in comfort-type businesses.
John, actually, I knew of someone who opened a Cluck U. Is that right? The little
Yes.
wing.
Tracy, I know Cluck U, and I think it's great.
See, and he did very well.
Yeah,
but he-
Cluck you.
Well,
Be careful.
Yeah,
Let's not
okay.
walk down that road.
All
We're not
right.
allowed to say that anymore.
Okay.
but he did very well because it was a price. There was a certain price point. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't like a sushi joint that could get
Yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah.
You're talking about chicken wings and barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And it could be a viable option.
Yeah, towns with universities have higher incomes and are more dynamic. They have a lot of kids that'll work for you. They have a lot of disposable income. So they're great places for a business to start. But I would not start a business in that town or any other town just as a money proposition, because it's going to start small, and unless you have somebody who's really in love with that business, then you're not going to really get it to happen. So I need a champion rather than just a market. But if you had a champion, an idea, that's a good market to do it in.
Even if you had the idea and you let somebody run with it. I mean, university campuses, for example, my first tanning endeavor was there. Now people are too broke. They're actually using the sun to get a tan, for Christ's sake.
What's that about?
But university settings can be a fantastic place. But I am with John on this one. It's what you're going to do and the passion behind it. If you have the money and the capital and you want to do something, you want to get ideas from other people and then let a business manager run it, that may be another option.
Right.
Nicola, did you ever think about starting your restaurants not here because of the expense?
I like the idea of targeting the age group. What I find in our businesses now, that as the client, as the consumer gets younger, they're eating out more. Maybe not at a higher level expense-wise, but so I like the idea of lighter, easier food, and targeting that younger crowd. We see them out much more often.
Even in this economy?
Yes, even this economy. I think a lot of them have grown up not eating at home. The trend is being to eating out.
Isn't that such a sad state on society?
Well,
Depends on where you're eating out.
Not for a restaurant guy.
Right. How bad about other cooks.
It can be. It can be. I mean, I think for us, the more they eat out, eventually they will work their way up to maybe our level. But but just the idea of targeting that age group, I think is interesting.
Let's
whether
get
it's salad or not.
Let's get another email. We have a business question from Sharon. She writes, my husband and I own a courier service for the real estate business going between the escrow office, the mortgage broker's office, and et cetera. Our business is pretty slow right now. Are there any free advertising methods? Dani, that is right up your real estate alley.
Well, first of all, there's another new method for you in your existing business, and that is in the next couple of weeks, appraisers are going to require intermediaries because they can no longer talk to banks directly or lenders directly. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth going on just in real estate, to get information between the intermediary and the appraiser and the intermediary and back to the bank again. So I would jump on that bandwagon as soon as you possibly can and advertise your services there. In terms of free advertising, you can take out ads in real estate magazines. Sometimes they'll cost you a little bit of money, not free. But the other way that you can jump on this is to go into Craigslist for your local area, go into forums, blogs for your specific area, offer advice to people, and in your tagline, put your website that offers your services.
Advertising, to me, also is useful when you have a broader market and you're trying to hit a lot of people. You have an extremely targeted market. You know every mortgage broker and every escrow agent within driving distance. Bring them a donut. Go see them. You don't have to just lob in your name over the transom. You can go see these people and make them want to do business with you.
But check out the new appraiser thing. That's going to be a cash cow for a lot of people.
All right. Is that statewide or nationwide?
Nationwide. It's going to be awful for
especially
the
low price houses, conforming stuff.
And do it for the banks who don't take the first 20 offers. Do it for the banks.
All right, these are some great ideas. All right, we got an email from Dan in Port St. John, Florida. He writes, I would like to present a new product to companies such as McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King. How do I go about doing this, and how do I protect this idea as my own? Excuse me. So this is a legal issue, too, he's asking.
Becca, I want to know, how do you get in front of a big chain like that? Do you have any suggestions?
Sure. I think there are a few ways you can do that. One of the ways is certainly partnering with people who have done it before. And there are small businesses who have gotten into big chains. So that's one way that you could do it. The other way is, you can get meetings with the peoples at the big chains, whether it's McDonald's or Burger King. They do occasionally want to help the small business owner. They know that they need new concepts to keep business going. So asking for a meeting, finding friends who can get a meeting with them, and doing that type of a thing is a great way to get in with a McDonald's, a Wendy's, what have you.
Would you entertain someone who came to you and said, my grandmother made this amazing cookie my entire life? What do you think?
Yes, we would. I mean, we're out there looking and listening for anything new that can help. I'm not sure how it necessarily would turn into a moneymaker, but yes, we're always looking for new
There's
things.
a good lesson there, because Nicola's business is a smaller business with an owner present. People there are more interested in new ideas and can actually talk with you about how the economics can work on your idea. These days, patent law got so easy some years ago that there are people who filed patents on inhaling and exhaling. And so there are guys called patent trollers who buy up patents and then go around looking to sue people. Because of that, a big company has generally a guy who's standing there trying to keep you from telling them your idea, just because they don't want to get sued. So don't overlook the smaller business or the neighborhood business as a way of getting this started. And you can do that times 20, and you can make good money.
But again, the founder, Honest Tea, walked into, I think it was Wild Oats. And that's where it was the precursor to Whole Foods. And that's they got in that way.
Which was a regional, small-ish business.
But again, the point being, the face-to-face contact is really important and can really help.
We want to take a quick break, everybody. More answers to your business questions straight ahead.
So call or email. The phone number again, 877-249-9626. Email us your money at foxbusiness.com. This is Fox Business, the only network in true HD. Welcome back.
What's that? That was the pitch. That's what we're here
It's the
for right
coolest
now.
graphic on the whole network, I gotta tell you. I think it is the coolest thing. All right, this is your questions, your money on the Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns.
And I'm Daga McDowell, and it is time for the pitch, where you get to call in, even be on camera maybe, pitch your business idea to a venture capitalist. Our venture capitalist is Becca Braun, and joining us now on the phone from California are two fellas. Hey, not on the phone? Well, Troy Morris and Ron Brown, who are thinking of, thinking of building a big business, what you'll hope will be a big business on the edge of the Grand Canyon. So good morning to you, Troy and Ron. Go ahead. Pitch away to Becca.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Hi.
Happy Saturday.
All right, one of you guys needs to pitch. Pitch hard. You got about 3 minutes.
The Raptor Ranch is an exciting venue. It's a birds of prey park that specializes in breeding and displaying native raptors, hawks, falcons, eagles, and owls. But more excitingly, it's an ecotourism facility that displays native raptors in exciting, fast-paced outdoor flight demonstrations, unlike anything seen elsewhere. These flight demonstrations promote wildlife education to Grand Canyon visitors, and we're located not on the edge of the Grand Canyon, but along the Grand Canyon corridor, which is a funnel for Grand Canyon tourism traffic, and it's certainly a key component for our success. Grand Canyon visitors want to see and learn about nature and wildlife, and we offer an opportunity to see these birds up close and personal, and allow them to learn all about birds of prey. We expect visitors to spend 1 to 2 hours and learn about and view all the North American birds of prey. We'll display how these birds actually live, hunt, and reproduce in the wild. Our feeling is that the visitors will leave with a greater appreciation of birds of prey, and we believe that's what Grand Canyon visitors are there for, and something that's lacking at this time. Currently, the Grand Canyon visitation is extremely crowded in the summer. things bottleneck up there, and this will provide a relief valve and a place for people to stretch out and see some things that they don't actually get to see in the canyon itself.
Becca, go ahead and ask some questions. What do you need to know, or just jump in here?
Sure, sure. Well, I think it's an interesting concept, first of all. I think what I like about it is that it really introduces people who are a captive market in a sense, and that they're driving down this road from the Grand Canyon to the world of birds of prey. And they're already in, kind of appreciating natural wonders mode, because that's the mode you're in when you're visiting the Grand Canyon. So I like that. I guess my question for these guys is, why birds of prey? Do people really have a pent-up demand to learn more about birds of prey? Is birding growing in the U.S.? When people go to zoos, are they most interested in birds of prey? I just need to be sold a little more on this birds of prey thing, that it fascinates people in some way that we don't quite know about in America.
Absolutely. Ron and I are both master falconers, so we obviously have an affinity for birds of prey. But in a zoo setting, when you see animals on display, you're unable to reproduce what they do as far as hunting in the wild. Grand Canyon visitors want to be educated, but they also want entertainment with that. Our birds are trained to chase mechanical lures through high-speed, high-energy shows demonstrating how they hunt in the wild. So rather than just seeing an animal in an aviary or something, which we have those as well, but they see live, fast-paced chases of these birds, showing how these birds prey and live in the wild. We also have a breeding facility that takes the visitor to treetop level and lets them get within 10 feet of nesting birds of prey, showing the parents incubating eggs, feeding babies, and these things. But the main thing is the high-speed flight demonstration. When we send a bird up outdoors 1,000 feet over the audience, and it comes diving down at 150 miles an hour, and you can hear the wind whistling through its feathers like bacon on a hot skittle, and it grabbing a bird, mechanical flying bird at 100 miles an hour. It's just a jaw-dropping experience.
You just sold me. Guys, how much money do you want to raise?
$5 million. We've got quite a bit into this. So we've got all the permits. We've got the land. We've got access to the state highway, which is highly coveted and protected because it is on the Grand Canyon corridor. So ideally, we'd like to get $5 million. We kind of were prepared for that. We've got quite a bit of cash into it already. We were going forward with the banks, and then it looked good with the banks. This was a year ago. And then the banks, of course, just kind of pulled in their horns. So.
Becca, and it looks like they want to charge $15 entry fee for adults, $5 for kids. They claim that their profit margins will be on the up and up.
And the bulk of the revenue would come from those entry fees,
right,
more
exactly.
than half of it.
What do you think?
Well, what they're charging sounds about right to me. I mean, what do you charge to visit the Grand Canyon? How does it compare to that?
Well, the Grand Canyon is in the neighborhood of $20 for a carload, but there's another venue, for instance, Meteor Crater up the road that sees 220,000 visitors a year to see a meteorite that hit the Earth eons ago. That's not on the road in the Grand Canyon. They're 6 miles off the interstate, but in the general area, and they charge the same $15. The number one tourist attraction in the area, in the Grand Canyon area, is an IMAX theater. It's shown the same film for 24 years running called The Grand Canyon Hidden Secrets. And they see 550,000 visitors a year that pay $12 to see their 34-minute film. So to
me, the pricing sounds pretty good. To me, I guess my question is there any way you can start a little smaller than the $5 million that you're trying to raise? Can you do a pilot project? Can you do something else that's a little smaller than that?
We can. Initially, we came in with this larger budget. We've got a smaller $2.5 million budget, and we can do anything in between those two. We can't go too much less than that because the property is remote. It's on the corridor into the canyon. It's highway frontage. We have 40 acres there, but there are substantial development costs in the way of a left-hand turn lane and deceleration lane off the highway, bringing in power, water. So there's significant development costs. But yeah, we can do it for about half that, and it's really tailored to the appetite of the investor.
Becca, final,
I like that you can do
final weigh-in from you.
Yeah, all roads
on this project.
South, when you drive into the South Rim, all the roads come together and meet on this road. So virtually, of the 3.5 million people that drive to the South Rim of the Grand Canyon, they will all pass us, and 95% of them will pass us both going into and leaving the canyon.
Becca, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you say?
So here's what I think. If they can do a smaller pilot, get that $5 million down a little bit, find some partners who are either Grand Canyon operators, tour operators, some angel investors who are interested in some kind of conservation or preservation or birding or something like that, then I think you've got a package that you can put together that works. I like the captive market of people driving from the Grand Canyon. I think you just want to make this a little bit smaller, get some angel investors who care about this industry or care about the Grand Canyon, and hopefully you can get some kind of an operator, somebody who's been involved in the Grand Canyon, whether that's, the Skywalk or whatever, some kind of a Grand Canyon operator who can help partner with you to provide some of that credibility for this $2.5 to $5 million investment you're looking for. But it sounds like a neat product.
Right.
Final word from John Rutledge over here.
A tough love word. I don't think you're going to get institutional financing for this thing in this market because this market is just shut down. But I think that, as Becca says, go to Ducks Unlimited, which is full of partners that are from investment firms that love the outdoors, and some of them have green blood, and so they may be interested in grubstaking you to get started. But before you do, go to places like National Geographic, Discovery Channel, Nature Channel, YouTube, and start pumping out videos for what you're doing. I think you're going to make $4 off of T-shirts for every $1 you make on admissions. That's how Hard Rock Cafe and Harley Davidson make their money. And so you're going to sell stuff to these people who love birds.
I love the name Raptor Ranch, and I love birds, guys. I have an owl and a hawk in my backyard, so
You do?
I'm very lucky.
Everybody has a story about a hawk or a falcon, and there's over 50 million bird watchers in the United
It's
States.
true.
So we've got
If you ever, the first time that you see one of these birds of prey, whether it's an eagle or a hawk or even an owl, you will never forget it. It is the experience of your life. I can guarantee that. So Raptor Ranch, guys, thank you so much. Troy Morris and Ron Brown, keep us posted on how things go. It was great to hear from you guys.
Will do. Thank you so much.
The Grand Canyon does need something, I have to say, other than, when you're a
It
kid,
needs
it's a big hole.
landfill. You got to
You show up there,
turn it into
you're
a strip
12,
mall.
you're like, and?
Yeah.
So there's potential there. All right, we still have plenty of time for your calls and emails. Call us, 877-249-9626. You can always email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
The Grand Canyon is better than a Jersey Mall, though, Tracy.
You know, when you're 12, I'm not sure.
Grand Canyon's beautiful. But you know what's more beautiful? The answers to your questions. We've got more coming up straight ahead. Raptor Ranch, Tracy. I'm going to get you on board with that before it's all over.
I'm trying.
We're far from over here, though, on the Fox Business
I don't think
Network.
there's birds in Jersey. Maybe that's part of the problem.
Why not is the question. Pollution? No, I'm kidding. Jersey gets a... they hate them.
That's right.
Hey,
We're efficient.
I'm Dani McDowell. This is Tracy Burns. Welcome to the Fox Business Network if you're just joining us. But we want to welcome in a new guest joining us from Mountain View, California, Aaron Patzer. He is the founder of Mint.com. Aaron, it's great of you to be here because we've been doing the pitch every week where people who have business ideas come on and pitch their ideas to a venture capitalist. And you didn't just pitch, you raised money, venture funding, to start your business just a few years ago. And how tough was it to get the money?
Well, I actually self-funded Mint.com initially for the first 7 months. So I put about $50,000 of my own money in, and then I raised $750,000 from a number of angel investors out here in Silicon Valley in the fall of 2006. And since that time, we've raised another $15 million or so. And now we're the leader in the space. We're actually much larger than Quicken online and all of our competitors combined, actually.
More than 1 million customers, right?
That's about 1.2 now.
Unbelievable. I can't even keep up with the numbers, Aaron. But again, if people don't know the site, of course they can go there. It's free, and it's a way to manage your money.
Yeah, it's
I mean, you just plug in, and it's automatic. It makes suggestions on what you can do to better your financial life. But again, I think just listening to the way you funded it initially is like you started small. And you had you started with a small chunk of money, and then you built it, and the money will come once the business just starts building on itself.
Yeah, entrepreneurs often face that sort of catch-22 challenge. I remember I went in February of 2006 to Sequoia Venture Capital, one of the most famous venture firms in the world. And I talked to those guys, and they said, hey, great idea, but you're 25, you have no product, no experience, and no team. There's no way in the world we can fund this. Maybe you should join the team over at YouTube, because YouTube was just taking off at that time. I was actually offered a position there to lead the front-end engineering team, which I declined. And so I basically worked alone in a room for 7 months. I worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm a young single guy. I didn't date for a year, which is tough. And really just put everything that I had into this business, started paying people out of my own pocket, some contractors. And really what let me do that was I had savings built up. And that was key, because I knew I could quit my job and I could make ends meet at least for a year. And then once you have a product, once you have something that you can show to people, something that's real, something that's tangible and visible to them, they're much more likely to fund you than when it's just an idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen.
Nicola, quickly, because we're going to jump to break, but you said you took a second mortgage out to start.
Yes. We tried to raise money with our first restaurant, and everyone said yes, 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 but no one came through with the check. So we actually, I borrowed money from everyone in my close circle. Starting with my parents' home, and then my brothers and sisters. So the initial funds that were put together were all from close friends. When you go to the outside, everyone kind of says, yes, they understand, they like the idea, but trying to get money at the beginning is very difficult. And if you can do it from family and friends, it can work also.
I do know one thing. These stories make me smile. Aaron, you had a job offer at YouTube, and you said, forget it. I'm doing it on my own. I'm going to make it happen. And again, it just starts with an idea. And if you got the gumption to do it, then it happens.
It's more fun that way. Yeah. And you have doubts every day on whether it's going to work. One day I would think, God, I'm a 25-year-old guy taking on Intuit and Microsoft Money and Intuit's Quicken product. There's no way in the world that this is going to work. And you oscillate emotionally wildly. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are ultimately successful don't tell you that. It's a very macho sort of thing. Of course, of course I was successful. Of course, I had all the confidence in the world. It was gonna. No way.
Right. Aaron, just stick right there. You're gonna be with us the next hour. Aaron Patzer of Mint.com. But we got an all-star panel here to answer your questions. We'll be right back.
All right, let's get right to the phones. We got more questions about your small business and business ideas. We got Lou from Pennsylvania on the phone. Hey, Lou.
Hi.
What's your question?
Yes, I'm a young college student interested in starting my own business. I'm going to school for legal assistant training and to become a certified legal assistant. And I was interested in starting a business to help people who are a little bit less well off financially and who could really use the help with legal services. And I was wondering about international copyrights or trademarks, or would I have to look into them? And if so, what's a good idea on how to do so?
Well, the first place I'd start is with the Patent and Trademark Office, which is uspto.gov. As far as the international stuff, I'll pass that one on to John.
The getting yourself protected here at home is by far more important than worrying about the foreign markets. And if you get trademarks protected and copyright protection, then that'll travel with you.
The truth is, I mean, even major companies like Louis Vuitton and Prada, they've got a significant problem where even if they do have a patent or copyright, somebody knocks it off anyway, so there's not really much we can do once you cross the international borders. I would start, if you want to start a law practice or a legal advising practice, start with what it is that you absolutely love about the law, and then work backwards, try and see how you can then help people that are in your niche market.
Joanna Alberti, who's coming up as our special guest in the next hour, who started a kind of a stationary greeting card business.
Cool.
Had interaction with somebody just directly ripping her off, and how she handled it. How she handled
issues,
it.
yeah.
And she handled it face to face, mano a mano.
But she handled it brilliantly.
Yeah, she
so
did.
We should talk about
She really did. Kill him with kindness.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you have to wait for that story. Right now, we want to get to an email from Rick in Rhode Island. He writes, I work for a small extended warranty company. Our competition is currently being investigated for auto dialing. We do not use auto dialing, but the entire industry is being depicted as a scam. How do we improve our reputation in an unpopular industry? That is fascinating, and actually, I think what he's talking about, there was actually a temporary restraining order put in place yesterday by a judge regarding these robocalling services. There were 3 companies involved. It was yesterday that the TRO was put in place to stop these robocalls. You know, you've gotten the calls where it says your warranty is expired on your car. It's a voicemail message. Anyway, in terms of improving image, who wants to take that jump ball here?
Come on, John.
You can use the other guy, maybe without their name so you don't get sued, but you can use the other guy as the story to put up about what you're not. The question is, how do you distribute that image out to the marketplace? That's the sort of an image that can go out for free over social media, much easier than in the local newspaper. But I'd really want to understand your market. Is your market people within 20 miles of your office, in which case I'm going penny savers and the other
Billboard,
paper thing, billboards. But yeah, advertise what you're not. And I hate those calls.
And advertise what you do, and
Right.
eventually that message will overcome. This is going to blow over. Eventually that message will overcome what you're not, and what you're not doing anyway, but you have been stigmatized as.
Right, right.
All right, we'll take another email. We got Jeff in North Carolina. He writes, I have a music instruction business. We started operating debt-free and have continued growing. Since I don't have a financial need to bring in outside investment, should I consider venture capital to accelerate growth, or should we continue to grow organically? Nicola, I'll throw this to you. You started with family money. You grew. Did you find it necessary to go outside the family?
Well, I mean, we've always thought about it, but in the end, we decided to stay within ourselves. You know, we've watched competitors grow and expand, and my thought on that has been, we own 100% of something. I think at the end, for us, it works better than perhaps expanding and owning less. So we always felt that there was more control, and keeping it smaller allowed us to still have our family imprint there. But if the business is working, I would grow organically. I don't know that necessarily always being bigger is better.
And music instruction, we don't know a lot about this business, John, but it gets to the issue of like, what kind of money do you need to grow the business? Do you just borrow if you want to grow it? Because venture capital is, you know, would that even apply to something?
No, this is not a venture subject.
People get hung up on the terminology.
Absolutely, yeah. Venture capital is bugs and drugs. I mean, software and medicines and things like that. But
things that are going to be unprofitable for a long period of time.
Big retail market. This is, there is private equity money in the music business. It's taken out guitar names, branded guitar names, you know, Gibson, Fender kind of names. It's taken out guitar centers, retail chains. But this is a business where you're not going to get an institution to give you money with something small. And so you have to get it from friends. There are, of course, as you already know, people who are in love with music. You might find someone to give you a few bucks to get started that way.
It's not a VC business.
No.
Right. Let's thank all of our panelists this hour who were here. Dani and John are staying. Aaron Patzer will still be with us. But Nicola Marzavilla of Etrulli, Centovini here in New York City, and then Becca Braun. Becca, it was great to see you as well. If you haven't been to those restaurants, if you're here, go. Amazing.
Absolutely go. And the Enotaca is my favorite.
All right, more amazing things here straight ahead on Fox Business. more hour to go, but so much to talk about here on Your Questions, Your Money. I'm Daga McDowell, along with Tracy Burns. We want to hear from you. We're talking about stimulating the economy all by ourselves, starting a business, growing one, building one, being a success, bringing your whole family into it.
I love that kind of stuff. All right, so pour a cup of coffee or put down the coffee you're drinking and call us, 877-249-9626. You can always email us at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
And we want to welcome our special guest for this hour. She took creative drawings from her own personal journal and turned them into a greeting card company. And she is a wee one, Joanna Alberti, founder of Philosophies.
Capital S.
Yes, and give them the Joanna. It's great of you to be here. I say wee one because you're very young and very successful at an early age.
Thank you for
Joanna.
having me.
Thank you so much for being here. This is just literally. There's so many parts of your story that are fascinating, but it's literally just taking something that you did in your spare time and turning it into a business. Just one day deciding, I'm going to do this.
Yes. After graduating, I went into advertising, and while there, I decided, I really love creative. I want to be in the creative side of business, and I love to illustrate growing up. So I started doing this idea, and this character, Sophie, took on a life of her own. So I did Sophie's Philosophies on birthday, bridal, baby, and everyday occasion cards, and sold them within the agency, and slowly that became grassroots effort throughout the whole office.
Yeah, but you got to back up. First, you were saying, because I read it all. You kept a journal.
Yes.
Look, I love the cards.
And these were your philosophies.
These were my philosophies, and they started off,
And they're fabulous little mantras. I love it. If you want to pour your heart out to somebody, find a drunk person, something.
Be straight up with friends and martinis. If you need to confide in someone, pick a drunk friend. I mean, early 20s, you're trying to figure, what you're doing as a career in life. I graduated early from Boston University and wasn't quite sure what I was getting myself into in the number crunching side. I was a media planner, so this was my outlet to draw and try to.
My favorite is wear pumps, take taxis.
Thank you.
So you got all these down in your book, and you have your philosophies, and you're sitting around trying to figure out what to call it, and that's how Sophie came about,
and that's
right?
how Sophie came about, because I wanted to remove myself, because Sophie is basically any woman. She's just fun, confident, fun-loving little character that people just find themselves or their friends in. So I just wanted to say, okay, this is Sophie. This is this little fictional character of just having confidence and being fun. And I ended up just selling them at the Arts and Crafts Fair within a Christmas sale at Hill Holiday when I was in advertising.
And you took it from there. But what made you make, was there a moment that made you make the jump, that you realized, I just want to do this all the time?
Yeah,
or that you knew that you could build this business?
I had to take a step back. I was seeing that I was working from 7 to 6 and then going home eating dinner and working from 11 to 3 in the morning and doing this for a couple months. So I went back to BU and I said, hey, I have this idea here. I'm keeping so busy with custom illustration work, and I'm drawing most of these by hand right now because I was just I started on greeting cards because it was a medium I could afford. It's paper. It's inexpensive for the most part when you're getting started and doing this as a hobby. And then I ran the numbers and started to figure out, okay, I can do this. I'm working out of my apartment. It was very grassroots. And then I just kept building. I moved home 2 years ago to Rochester, New York, and started working out of an art studio to be more of a solid business. In the past 6 months, I just opened a studio storefront in the village of Spencerport on the Erie Canal. So it's been a progression of stages with a small amount of capital.
And you started this when you were how old?
I started this when I was 25.
I feel like a slacker.
But I don't want to give it away. We've only got a couple minutes, Joanna, but I mentioned it earlier. You ran into somebody who was ripping off your idea, and you handled it with great aplomb.
Oh, thank you. Well, what happened was to get my idea out there, and I advise everyone to show people your ideas. Definitely follow up with a trademark and patent attorney and do all the due diligence afterwards, or as you're going. But you will find that if you start going into girls' night out circuits or different ways of sales, somebody will see your idea, and if they like it, it was basically a carbon copy of changing the face of the character and using the body and a little bit of the wording change. And when I spoke to a lawyer about it, they said, to the amount of money that you'd have to spend on something like that and where you are with your business, you're so creative, just move ahead, move on from it. So I saw her at another show and I introduced myself, and a face of, oh my goodness, she caught me kind of idea came over her, and I just said, best of luck to you, because it's a really hard competitive industry, and if you're not creative, you don't succeed. And it ended up not really working out, and I don't think it worked out for them, but maybe
So
I think
they're
they
gone.
started something else. They're gone, yeah. But I was really, positive about it, and I just kind of kept forward, because you'll lose sight of where you're going if you're worrying about others.
Can I just read some of these?
Yeah.
A strong cup of coffee and self-confidence can carry you past the morning. I love that. And this one, all I need in life, I carry in a cute handbag. These are amazing little mantras.
I know, and she's expanded it too, because Joanne, you do a whole line of products, and T-shirts, handbags.
Yes, I was very fortunate 2 years ago when I went to the National Stationery Show and my second visit. My first visit wasn't as successful. We picked up boutiques, but my
Right.
sorry,
No, just Joanna, just give us 1 second. I'll let you finish that thought, because right now it's 6 minutes after the hour, and we just want to welcome our radio listeners on Sirius and XM. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Tracy Burns.
And we are talking about small businesses, business ideas, entrepreneurialism. If you have a question, call us. We want to hear from you. Or you can send us an email at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. You can call us 877-249-9626. We have a great group of people talking today, giving advice. Joining us, of course, is Joanna Alberti. She is the founder of greeting card company Philosophies. Also here, always our token small business experts, Dani Babb and John Rutledge of Rutledge Capital Partners. In San Francisco, we welcome venture capitalist Andrew Williamson. He is director of Physics Ventures. And actually, he's got like 1,000 degrees. And still with us is Aaron Patzner of
You do, Andrew.
He does.
You got a PhD, Andrew, right?
And an MBA.
I do, yes.
Right? See, I'm serious. All right,
And Aaron Patzer of Mint.com. Again, if you
we have all these youngins with us
if
too.
you don't know Mint, you've got to try one or try it.
And get minty, right, Aaron? You get minty.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take an email. This one comes from Annie, and she writes, I have an online business that I run out of my home. It's now outgrowing my house. I want to expand. How do I go about doing that on a shoestring budget? It's a great question.
No, Joanna, you should answer this, because you moved home, didn't you?
Yes, I moved home on the shoestring budget and found an art space. They had 1,500 square feet, perfect for what I needed to start keeping more inventory, bring in a few people to help me package, and we manufacture all the greeting cards still. They're all hand embellished and sent out and printed in the U.S., so it's very labor intensive, and so I found that, moving back to a marketplace, since I was in Boston, going back to upstate New York, which is much more, is an inexpensive market, I was able to, stretch my dollar a lot further. So I would reevaluate if you're already working out of your home. Maybe it's something where you're combining studio space with someone within your town, or doing something where you're sharing office space to have more of a environment conducive to actual work every day from 9 to 5.
Aaron, I want to know how you managed cost initially when you were starting and really growing Mint.com, and just weigh in here on this emailer's question.
Yeah. So initially, I quit my job and worked from home. So I had a 2-bedroom place, and actually the first employee at Mint needed a job and needed a place to stay, so he became my roommate, and I paid him about $3,000 a month in salary, and I took $1,000 back in rent, which is probably illegal or something. So that was one of the ways that I got costs down. So I kept the business until it outgrew basically my home. And then I rented by the cubicle at an office park nearby here in Mountain View. And they already had internet set up, they already had phones set up, so there was very little work to get in, and you could buy another cube as we hired another person. And then once we got up to about 10 people, we took over an entire floor. But it wasn't until then that we signed any sort of lease or had any real commitment other than a month-to-month expense.
What's interesting is that there's a perk to being young, because you're not giving up, the big Wall Street salary to go start this business that, I want to make iced tea now, but meanwhile I've been making $250,000 down on Wall Street. There is a perk to being young and having that blue flame, isn't there?
Well, and having savings, as Aaron said before. having a little money in the bank can take you along the way. But I think Aaron's right, and Annie's question, you want to do this on the cheap. And it's an online business, so you don't need storefront, you don't need things to show. You just need to get your product out there. And so the first question I always ask is, do you really need more space? Have you already crammed everything you possibly can? And how many hours of the day are you using it? Are you using it 1 shift, 2 shifts, 3 shifts? There's 24 hours in the day. But to Aaron's point, there are all sorts of businesses that have had to downsize. They have empty desks, empty cubicles, the lights are already on. They'll do anything for money, so don't offer them too much, but sub-use some of their space. And do not sign a lease. You don't have to today.
Yeah, and also consider if it's an online company using virtual employees. A good portion of my team actually works from their own home. You feel like you lose a little bit of control, but in return, you're gaining trust from the individual, and that can actually work to your advantage. I actually, when my business outgrew my first home, I just moved and got a bigger house with more bedrooms, and then used more bedrooms for the office. So that's another option if it's open to you. And then I've known many people that actually add on to their home to have a separate business area, or they build a business on the home for 20 or 30 grand in a separate office space if you really need the space. But I would take a look at virtual employees for online businesses.
Andrew, in your experiences with companies you've invested in, or at least businesses that you've looked at about potential investments, what are some of the mistakes people make in terms of maybe growing too fast and expanding to space they can't afford?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with the advice that's just been given. We get a lot of companies, particularly in this online space, who come to us to raise venture capital probably too early. And we're interested in making investments in the range of $1 to $5 million. And that's just getting ahead of themselves for most of these companies, and they ramp up what we call the burn rate, which is where their expenses exceed their revenues, to the point that they then can't catch up with that, and they get themselves into trouble. So we see a lot of really nice companies, and Mint is a great example. I'm a big fan and user, where if they'd come to me and asked to raise money, even though I'd have been very tempted to invest in that company, I would have advised the entrepreneur to go back and grow the company organically using friends and family capital, or all the kind of scrappy entrepreneurial resources that we were talking about for as long as possible. We just invested in a startup in Brooklyn, which is kind of a mixture of online websites plus some consumer electronics plays. And it was started by 5 guys in a warehouse. And they've had all kinds of ex-Wall Street folks turning up and offering to work for free. They're dropping their resumes off at the door, wanting to intern with the company. And we're seeing a big trend where people will work for 6 months or 12 months, maybe just for some options of stock in the company, so that when we do invest venture capital later on, they can become a real employee. So there's so many options they have available not to increase the burn at this time.
That's incredible. Because Tracy and I both worked in the dot-com world during the bubble, and I had friends that literally they would get venture cap, and the company blew through it all on furniture. Not the one where we work, but they literally burned through. As soon as they got the money, man, that money flew right out of the door.
That was a crazy
And then those Aeron chairs, chairs were on eBay in a year because the thing shut down.
Right along with the foosball table.
No, seriously.
Yeah, seriously, I'm serious.
I think we've got a couple of old steel case desks and Aeron chairs left over from a few of those businesses anyway. Well, not a full hour, but 45 minutes left to get your questions in here on the Fox Business Network. Keep the calls and emails coming.
Call us, 877-249-9626. And, of course, you can always email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. Stay with us.
Let's get to the phones. Jeff is on the line from New Jersey. Jeff, go ahead, ask your question. We got incredible people to answer it.
That's perfect. My small business developed a barcode tracking system to track inventory and assets, and I'm wondering, how do I pick a vertical market to focus my marketing on?
Ooh. We like that question.
Good one, huh?
Yeah, it is. John?
I'd want to know a little bit more about how it works and what sort of stuff have you used it on already, Jeff?
Sure. Well, we have it installed in a few places. It's being used by some EMS squads to track their supplies. It's in use at a 3PL, third-party logistics, that's keeping track of their inventory for their customers, posting the inventory on the web so the customers can come and see what it is. It's being used in different ways. I could give more examples, but it's basically there's a handheld computer that reads barcodes, there's PC software, and it has all kinds of features. But I've kind of been wrestling with this question of I have limited funds, and you can see the horizontal appeal to many different vertical markets. How do I go about figuring which vertical market to focus on? And I've had some thoughts, but I'm sure you have better.
Which customers are in love with you? Which ones of them fall over themselves for what you're doing for them? In which markets?
Well, I really can't say any at the moment.
Okay, well then that's the first thing we need to find.
What do you consider, Jeff, the threat of RFID to your technology coming down the pipe?
Oh, not a threat at all. It's a complementary technology to barcoding.
Okay.
It'll never replace barcoding, and that's a technical discussion. But yeah, RFID is an enhancement, not a replacement.
Okay, so what I might try doing is going with maybe sounds crazy, but rather than a vertical market, going horizontal. So going with Walmart's already out there, but going with new product companies, people that need barcodes for their brand new products, and try and hit that market space across the board for any new idea.
Okay, you're saying new businesses.
New businesses that need this technology or need barcoding or need the barcodes and don't have the ability to do it. Maybe come in with a niche, lower cost, better product, better service, $99,999 uptime on equipment, 5 nines, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like I've seen it in the food store, if I'm not mistaken. You can barcode the item now as you're walking around and figure out how much you're spending as you go. So to me, it seems limitless. Andrew, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, well, first of all, I should say, as a disclosure, I am an investor in an RFID company, and I think that's a great technology. It does have a lot of future in many of these applications. But I think the food is an interesting space. At Physic Ventures, we invest a lot in consumer products in the health and wellness space. And one of the areas where there's a lot of growing concern right now is around transparency in the food supply chain. And so we've seen some interesting business plans for using barcodes to tag products as they start in the farm all the way through to the grocery store, so that you can see that information. Similar thing actually in the drug space and tracking counterfeit of drugs and things like that. So there's a lot of areas where consumers want more information and more assurance about the products. That might be an interesting vertical for you to look at.
Yeah, so sky's the limit on that. I like it. I mean, people use it going through the food store. You could tally your bill. That way you don't get up there and say, can't take the bread. Got to put that off there.
No, Macy's has long used the barcode technology for the wedding registry.
Yeah, there's also
the bridal registry where they give you the gun.
Yeah, they all do. Fortune offs and all those guys do.
Yeah, there's also the luxury market that's using it as a method, as he was just saying, to protect against patent and copyright issues.
All right, that's good stuff. All right, as we go to commercial, we want to give a shout out to our radio listeners on Sirius Channel 145 and XM 168. Thanks for listening.
This is the Fox Business Network. You've still got more time to get your questions in about starting, running, growing your business and just being great at it. 877-249-9626, the email, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. We will be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Your questions, your money. We're focusing on small business, being entrepreneurial, and just being good at it. This email comes from Larry in Atlanta, and he writes, I own a small fleet of 18-wheelers. The economy is slow, and so is freight. High gas prices almost killed us last year. I've kept going because of my 10 loyal workers. I haven't had a payday this year. Our bank will refinance us, but how do you know when to quit? John?
That's the toughest question, and it's like I think Aaron was saying before. Everybody who starts a business doubts it every night. You know, but you save your doubts for late at night when there's nobody else around to watch you. And the question is, if you quit, what else will you do? And usually, what keeps an entrepreneur going is saying, "Damn it, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to try and fight this one more time." This is a very tough time for the trucking business, but if you want a glimmer of hope, there are some signs that the economy is starting to move a little bit stronger. So if you can hang in there until the end of this year, and if you can get refinancing from a bank, I'd hang in there, because the worst thing that's going to happen at the end of the day is you lose your trucks anyway. So I always end up with fight one more day because I'm not going to work for the man.
You have to remember that the economy in every business is cyclical, right? So I was reading something last night about the theory of motion, and if movement is constant, you often don't even know that you're moving. So sometimes you actually have to look out the window to see that you're actually still making progress, to have some sort of sense of relativity, that you actually are moving ahead and you're not in as bad of shape as maybe it feels like you are or you think you are. And there's also more lending coming out. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to see the $3 billion that banks are holding on to of small business debt be washed away by $15 billion from the Treasury, and lending is going to start happening again in the small business sector. I would hang in there.
But Joanna, and we could pose this to Aaron too. Aaron decides he's going to take on, Quicken, Intuit. You're taking on Hallmark, I guess you could say, in many ways. How do you do that when you're sitting in the dark at night? You sit there, you say, what am I doing? Am I crazy?
Well, I developed a strategy to keep focused on what I do best, which is illustrate and come up with these clever ideas. And I did that and started custom invitations and illustrations, what created a higher profit margin for me. And then when I went to the National Stationery Show, I was trying to find licensors to market my work onto gift products, and they would handle the manufacturing and distribution. And that's where I fell upon UNESCO 2 years ago, started licensing my artwork onto different products. So I've expanded onto gift bags, tote bags, compact mirrors, many different products that initially I was like, I want to do this, that, and another thing. And you realize I don't have the capital to do this, and I'm not going to drive myself into the ground on the first year starting. So take a step back, deep breath. Okay, do what I do best, paper, stationery, and then those people will see your talent and your artwork and help you grow. And the best lesson I've learned is to just make phone calls, and people want to mentor people starting off that are successful.
Right. Let's get a phone call.
So,
Don, go ahead. Did somebody want to speak? Go ahead. Just shout out.
So my hard rule when I quit my job to start Mint was don't let myself get below 3 months worth of savings, living expenses. So if you're deciding when to quit, you can take out a second mortgage, but don't lose your house, because if you get into severe financial stress, and one of the things I was very pleased about is that I had savings built up when I started Mint, it affects every area of your life. It affects your personal life. It affects your ability to continue to do business and to be creative and to push the business forward. And so I do think that you need to sit back and think about a hard point when you do drop out.
Right, and you know what? There's something in entrepreneurs, though, is failure is not the end very often. You see it if
could
it's
be
in
a learning
them.
experience too.
If you see it, and if you have that spark, you'll come back. You see that time
I've failed
and again.
at 3 businesses before Mint, and now this on the 4th try is the successful one, or seems to be. But it's fine to give up and to fight in another business or at a different time. And creative people who start businesses, they have another 1, 2, 3, 10 of them left in them the rest of their lives. So if it doesn't work out this time, it will next time.
Andrew, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in complete agreement. I mean, I can say, sitting on the other side of the table, the entrepreneurs who come in and who've tried and failed 3 or 4 times, we view that as a badge of honor. It's a much better learning experience to be in a company and see when it goes wrong than to just be lucky in a company that just rides a wave and you're successful, not necessarily for your hard work. In terms of when to cut the ties, this is something that we're discussing all the time in these difficult times with many of our operating businesses. And the advice I would give is not to be so obsessed with the short-term cash needs of the business. Obviously, you have to solve those through some kind of financing. But think about 1, 2, 3 years ahead. Is this fundamentally a good business? As you said, everything is cyclical. When the economy comes back, is this a business you want to be in? Or is this something where the macro drivers have changed that it just no longer has a place? And if so, you should get out now and move on, I think.
That was terrific advice all the way around from New York out to California. On the phone from Michigan, however, is Don. Don, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, I own a health insurance agency. We specialize in the individual market as well as a small group, under 20 employed. It looks like our competition in the near future is going to be against the government. So my question is here, is the government going to be an insurance company to where they'll use the private industry to sell their product, or should I just get out now because I'm going to have to be competing against the government, which we know that that's going to be a lose situation?
Well,
we can't. Actually, it's hard to answer it right now.
Right, because
it's hard to
so
answer
fluid.
it.
Well, that's exactly what the problem is in the industry. My business went down about 50% because of the uncertainty of exactly what's going on.
Right, and it's not just healthcare. It's a number of businesses that are facing the same uncertainty. Do you
So,
guys want to jump in?
I mean, what would you suggest I do?
Right.
You know, should I look for something else now, diversify into something different?
Well, Obama loves small businesses so much he's even trying to make the large ones into small ones. I would hang in there. I don't think that ultimately we're going to have a nationalized healthcare system. That's only my opinion. I have no clue. But if I were in your business, I would try to expand service offerings, see what other things you can do to bring in more clients, expand it regardless of what's going to happen, and hang in there.
John?
Same here. You're never going to figure out what the government's going to do coming up. If you've got some good, loyal customers, that's a good place to start. And one notch away from what you're doing are the retirement plans these same little companies are offering to their employees, and there are some new opportunities there. So I know that's moving more in the life direction than the property casualty or health direction, but this uncertainty out of Washington makes it very tough to make decisions.
Andrew, quickly, how do you operate in certain areas with the uncertainty of the government? I mean, coming in and changing the rules or just government intervention deeper into a business?
Yeah, it's very challenging, and this healthcare space is somewhere where we are actively investing, and to some degree we're sitting on the sidelines because of this question of exactly what's going to happen with healthcare reform. The advice I would give, and where we see some white space and some interest, is in the area of customization and personalization. We see that all areas of healthcare, from diagnostics to treatment to healthcare services and health plans, are going to become much more specialized, away from a one-size-fits-all. So if I was going to give any advice, I would look at that trend, and I think that will survive irrespective of what happens in the government versus private space.
Thank you for that.
Good stuff, actually.
Keep those calls and emails coming, folks. Please, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, the information we're getting here is amazing. 877-249-9626. Always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. This is the Fox Business Network. Stay with us. I love that little graphic. All right, welcome
It's a big
back.
graphic.
It's awesome.
It's big.
And it's baseball season too. I guess we get the whole thing going. All right. Welcome back. Your questions, your money on the Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns, along with Dagan McDowell.
And it is time for the second pitch of this show.
How cool is that?
So you watch YouTube, right? Well, what if you could play it like as a computer game? It's a trivia game. A computer programmer turned web entrepreneur has built a website where you can create or play customized video and audio trivia games for free. Joining us now on the phone from Saratoga Springs, New York, is Russell Kirkwood, founder of Wheezy.com, and he is pitching this to Andrew. So, Russell, go ahead, pitch away. Andrew, listen up.
Okay, thank you for having me today. What Wheezy.com is a website that allows you to upload video and then add questions or trivia or questionnaires to that media, and then it allows the public or in a secure channel for people to come along and go and play that or answer the questions. So the idea behind it is that a business.
Hey, Russell, your phone is breaking up. Russell, you're breaking up. Are you on a cell phone?
No, I'm landline.
Okay, guys, we're going to try and get Russell back on the phone because we missed a good chunk of that pitch. But let's see if we can get him on a hard line, or maybe, it's the technology gremlins in our phone line.
Yeah.
But we're going to try and call him back. But Andrew, before we try to get Russell back on the phone, when people come in to pitch to you, what very often is the biggest mistake that they make?
Oh, we see a lot. I think.
You had to think. You're like, oh, there's so many.
All over the shop. So, well, let me pick a mistake which I think is going to be relevant to Wheezy, and that is thinking about the revenue model. So, So Wheezy is basically a Web 2.0 website, right? So it's what we call user-generated content, where people upload videos or blogs or text for other people to go and look at. And one of the common problems when you're developing a site like this is that the entrepreneurs will focus on driving what we call eyeballs, getting many people to come to the website and use it. And this is one of the classic mistakes in the dot-com era, that somehow eyeballs correlated with revenues. And what we've learned, particularly with these Web 2.0 sites, is that that's not the case. And it's actually very difficult to make money from these sites, even when you have millions and millions of users. And so that, I think, is going to be one of my questions for Russell, if we can get him back, that Google has spent a lot of investment on bringing YouTube up to a really beautiful site with millions and millions of high-quality videos, but they're still struggling to generate a revenue model. How are they going to make money from this site? And I think that's one of the classic things, that entrepreneurs often develop products that they want to use, whether it's a website or a widget, and they focus on making it a really great user experience. But from an investor perspective, we also have to think about how we're going to monetize that great product.
Aaron, your website's free. How do you make money?
Right, so we make money if we can save the users money. So we have, basically we data mine your finances for your benefit. So we'll say, hey, you've got $20,000 at a Wells Fargo bank account. We see that you're earning 0.01% interest. If you move that money to ING Direct or HSBC, you'd earn 2 or 3% interest. That's worth $600 to you as a user. And if you sign up for that new account, we get a referral fee. And we do the same thing for credit cards, or hey, you spend $180 on phone, TV, and internet, you could bundle it together. We know how much you spend on your mortgage, and so we can figure out whether it makes sense to refinance, because we're constantly watching interest rates on your behalf. So there are a lot of different financial verticals and better financial products that we can identify for you based on your unique financial habits. And so we get about a 20% click-through rate on our Ways to Save page, which is about 100 times more effective than, say, a banner ad, because it's personalized and because it actually saves you money.
Let's get back to the pitch. We got Russell back on the phone in this technological age. The cell phones still don't work. Love that. Maybe there's a business opportunity in that. Russell, go ahead. Pitch away.
Okay, thanks for having me back on. Okay, Wheezy.com is a website that I built that allows companies, corporations, educational, or people to post up videos or media or audio, and then they can type in questions or questionnaires that have to do with that media clip. And then the public would come along, or private, could come along and log in and go ahead and answer those questions as they're watching the video. So the idea, as an example from a business point of view, would be, let's say a large soda company posts up a new commercial up on Wheezy. They could get instant feedback from people that are watching the video as they're watching it and answering questions as to whether they like the commercial, whether they like the product, all sorts of questions. From an educational point of view, an instructor can go ahead and post up an hour-long instructional video, and students can answer questions as they're watching the video. The instructor could then get immediate feedback as to how well the students are understanding the subject matter.
Let's let Andrew ask you questions. Andrew, go ahead and ask Russell whatever you want to know.
Well, so Russell, while we were trying to get you back, I was telling the other folks that I think this is a classic Web 2.0 play, and it's something that in general venture capitalists like to invest in because it's very capital efficient. You can build this site with very little money, and particularly in these times, it's a great way to start a new business. And the challenge is always, how are you going to make money from the viewers that come to your site? And I like the two models that you suggested. The corporate sponsorship or the teaching model are both good. So my first question would be, if you were pitching to me, what research have you done around what rates you think you can charge, say, a Pepsi to put up their latest advert on your site? Or if you're going for the educational model, have you done some research into the kind of institutions that would purchase that and what kind of rates you could charge there?
No, I haven't done that research yet, but that sounds like an idea that I do have to pursue.
The idea as to how the site can make money is one by display ads, which are up there already. The second would be sponsored video ads that show before or after somebody is watching a media clip. The third way would be video production or game creation that we do on our side. The system is built that a company can do it themselves, but we do offer the service where we'll do it. A sponsored channel would be if a corporation came along and wanted their own area within Wheezy. Sponsored contest would be that somebody runs a contest and we go ahead and run that contest and promote that for them.
Great.
On the back
So let me interrupt you there, because
go ahead, Andrew.
Because I think, I mean, it sounds very promising, Russell. So you just committed what I would say was the second cardinal sin in the pitch of you're losing a little bit of focus. So you've just pitched me two business models, basically. One is a Web 2.0 site with user-generated content, and you're extracting economic rent, essentially, from other people viewing content that other people put up. You also mentioned a second business model, which is developing the videos, the quizzes, the games, in a kind of service mode for other third parties. And that's a very different business. So one of the pieces of advice I would give you is go away and look at the economics behind those two business models and pick one. It's very difficult as an early stage business. I think you just have just yourself right now to go with two business models. A lot of people try and do it for hedging purposes, but we find it just ends up losing focus. So that would be one piece of advice. My other piece of advice would be the competitive landscape here is quite complex. You're butting up quite close to YouTube, who already have now adverts before and after some of the movies they show. It wouldn't be too difficult for them to add some kind of interactive quizzes next to the videos along with what you're doing. We're also very interested in a space called cognitive fitness, is where people are putting games online so that you can exercise your memory and your reaction speeds while you're playing those games. And actually, there's some quite good clinical data to show that you can improve by doing that. And there's quite a lot of very successful companies, many of which we looked at quite closely, who are doing that and who I noticed actually are advertising on your site. So again, be very careful about where's the white space, where's your expertise, and who are you competing with?
Yeah.
Russell, thank you for calling in. Russell, I hope that was helpful.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much for having me.
Russell Kirkwood, Wheezy.com is the website. And speaking of which, Andrew, you're right, Brain Age. I play it on my Nintendo DS.
But Andrew just gave some amazing advice. I mean, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. I think that was so great. I'm learning. One of these days, I'm going to pitch my own idea.
I always, when I watch TV, which I watch a god-awful amount of television, the thing that always inspires me is like, I learned something. And I learned something 4 hours every Saturday on this show.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
that was great. Andrew,
thank you for that.
So much.
But you don't go anywhere.
No. All right. All right. But if you have to run out at home, please keep listening to us on the radio. You can tune in at Sirius Channel 145 and XM 168.
We will be back with more of your questions about your money and your business. Stay with us. An email from Beth in Alabama. Beth wrote in and asked, I've recently started a gourmet sauces and seasonings business and have been selling retail. I'm ready to begin selling wholesale, but I'm having a hard time deciding how to set my cost. Is there a specific percentage of markup to my actual cost? Danny, John, you want to jump in here?
Well, my first reaction is what the customer is going to be willing to pay for it.
As much as you can possibly get is the other is the other answer. No, there's going to be your market. Your ability to price your product is going to be controlled by what your customers can buy from other people. So you can go in those shops, and in your case, I don't know if it's Williams-Sonoma or somebody, but there'll be products that are not too far away from yours, and you want to make sure you're priced in the same zone as them and not 2 times as much.
Joanna, how did you decide?
Basically, I have a few different niches within my product category. I sell wholesale to the greeting card stores, so that I have to stay competitive with the Hallmarks of the world. So lower the price point. I use a different kind of paper. You have to with your materials and whatnot. And then the market can bear for custom products. I'm offering a custom illustration, so that's a premium fee for different work. So I decided on, based on competition, looking at other catalogs and what I was offering that was different from the competitors. So you have to always mark it up at least, I don't know, within my business it's 100.
Yeah, double, 2x is. But the other thing you got to worry about is wholesale usually means you're pushing it through a distributor, and a distributor's going to take a huge bite out of the middle. If I were you, I'd want to go around the other way, get the customer in love with your product, and then do that online, and then pull the product through, drop shipping it to them through Overstock or somebody, and avoid that middleman entirely.
Or your own online store.
And try to build a set quantity and maybe offer an incentive if it's, you know, if they buy into a certain volume at first, and then offering incentives that they're carrying your products and trying different things. And I'm not sure how many different flavors she has or seasonings and things like that, but if she's doing really well retail, maybe she should try expanding that first, since she won't be cutting into her own profit margin with different flavors.
Good idea. Good stuff. All right, we're going to go to the phones. Doug from New York is on the phone. Hey, Doug, what's your question?
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for taking my call. I love the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I guess I redesigned the bird feeder so that they would last longer than the competition, and I just would like to know how to protect it so none of these big corporations steal my design.
Well, you can get a 1-year provisional patent. It's about $160 now, I believe, at uspto.gov. The truth is, you know, I've been told by patent attorneys in the last couple of days that once you create the product and it's out there, that is to some degree protection. But if you feel more comfortable, you can get a provisional patent that buys you a year, test out the product, make sure people are going to buy it, and then you can hire a patent attorney that for about $3,000 will get you a real one.
Aaron, how have you tried to protect yourself?
Yeah, so we actually have 5 patents at mint.com on the technology that does all the categorization and the sort of advice matching based on your finances. And then we have registered trademarks like the logo and whatnot. But if you look at the patent law, there's something called public disclosure. So if you're selling these bird feeders, you have 1 year from the time of initial public disclosure when you're first selling them to the time when you have to file a patent, or you lose your ability to patent it. So if you've been selling these for a while, the clock is already ticking.
Did you trademark after your plagiarism incident?
I had actually been going through the process before that happened, and it wasn't that there were tweaks to it, and with creative, it's about, you can change artwork 75%, they say. It's like this really fine line with artwork because there's so many different representations for something. But I did go through Massachusetts for Lawyers for the Arts and trademarked Philosophies, the character Sophie, and then I copyright all my script.
And you're right that big companies will sometimes take good designs. I don't know if you've seen this, but Discover Card, their spend analyzer product that they've been advertising on national TV on a daily basis, is a direct copy of mint.com's trends page, button for button, all the pie charts, the functionality, but it's only for your Discover Card, and people don't use those too much anyway.
There's actually
Feel flattered, Aaron.
There's a company out there where you can hire a programmer, and one of the options out there is copy a site. You type in the URL, and you can pay a programmer $200 to rip off a website.
All right.
Evil, evil.
Everybody, we're going to be right back here on the Fox Business Network. Your question is your money. You know the number. You know the email address. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Your questions, your money. We're focusing on you, your small business, your big business, your entrepreneurial ideas. And while we have these masterful ideas in front of us, I want to jump to Andrew now. Andrew, what is it exactly that you're looking for? How do I get my idea in front of you? And what do you need to hear from me to dive in and give me some money?
I laugh because I mean, giving Tracy money, you know where it's going to go.
What does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything. Chase, Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, it was great. I mean, I was actually watching President Obama's speech on your show just about an hour ago, and it's interesting. The 2 key areas where we invest at Physic Ventures are directly aligned with the stimulus. We invest in consumer healthcare and trying to reform all of the healthcare system, and so we're looking for new ideas which are going to lower healthcare costs and improve people's outcomes. And we're also interested in a space that we call sustainable living, which is taking all of this great environmental, clean, green technology and bringing that to consumers so they can reduce their energy consumption, reduce their environmental footprint, and live healthier and cleaner lives. So if you have a new technology which we think we can scale to a large business, that we can protect with patents, and that we can invest a relatively small amount of money and in a capital efficient way grow it, we'd love to hear from you.
Andrew, what's the worst idea that you've heard lately that's been pitched to you?
Oh, that's unfair.
No, but what's a lousy idea? Because again, you learn from mistakes.
So I got pitched. So I invest in water technology is one of the areas that we work in, and we've looked in a lot of kind of technologies for producing cleaner, healthier water. Mm-hmm. We had a company that came in and pitched us a water filtration system last week that you could use in your kitchen or in your fridge or something like that. And we tested it out, and the water actually tasted worse when it went through their filters than it went in the beginning. So sometimes, you know, you can use too much technology and the consumer benefit is totally lost. We see quite a few of those.
So presuming I don't have a bad water idea, how do I get in front of you? I mean, do you have a website? Like, how does one get in front of a venture capitalist these days?
Absolutely. I mean, so we see about 2,000 business plans a year. About half of them come to our website, which is www.physicventures.com, wow. And we'd be delighted to look at them. But I would say to get the best review of your plan, you want to try and network into us. So I use LinkedIn. I have about 1,000 contacts there. So if you see somebody that I know, if I get a referral from an entrepreneur who we've already backed or another VC that we've invested with, those plans get our highest level attention because they've already been pre-approved. So you want to try and network into the venture capital community.
Aaron, is that one of the reasons, because we talk about California as being a high tax state, as difficult to do business in, but a lot of these very successful companies and entrepreneurs stay in California because it's important to be near everybody else and be part of the community?
Absolutely. So California, Silicon Valley, San Francisco area is by far the best place in the country if you're going to be a biotech or a software or a hardware startup. I've lived and worked in startups in Austin, Texas, in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, and there is nothing like Silicon Valley. You will go down, you know, every cafe that I go into, I recognize a VC or another entrepreneur. I know all the founders of, you know, Facebook, Yelp, every YouTube, every major company out here. We all know each other. It's a very small community. All the VCs know one another. All the lawyers out here will actually let you accrue $25,000 worth of legal fees if you have a decent idea and not pay them back until you get your first round of funding in return for a small amount of equity. Sometimes you can even get office space in return for equity if you pay them later. So it's the whole ecosystem here is just absolutely phenomenal. There's no place like it in the world.
There's so much hope, and I'm constantly inspired by everything I hear on this show, but Andrew and Aaron have been particularly inspirational today. A lot of insight. What were you going to say, Tracy?
Well, I was going to turn to Joanna. Rochester can't be, you know, a hub of credit card, of, you know, greeting cards and things like that, and yet you're pulling it off.
I'm pulling it off because I'm both national and international now with my greeting card line and with licensing, and it's a great place to live. I mean, it's as Aaron said earlier, as you're an entrepreneur, it's a lifestyle. I have my family there, you know, it's wonderful, close friends, my boyfriend. I mean, I want to be there to grow a business, grow a family, and just it allows me to be the most creative without feeling the struggle of being somewhere else.
I think you've been inspirational as well.
Guys, your final words, Danny, John?
Absolutely.
Never at a loss for words.
Kick butt, take names, and don't quit.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask us how they're going to expand their business. People are being cheap these days, and women are actually being with their husbands because they can't afford batteries, for Christ's sakes. So, you know, one thing you might want to look at is potentially moving into inexpensive marketplaces and looking at taking whatever your existing product is and moving into a new market that people can afford.
Dani Babb, as always, great insight. John Rutledge, it was a pleasure. Joanna Alberti, Philosophies, it was great of you to be here. And we also want to take a break and thank Andrew Williamson Physic Ventures. You know where you can find him on the internet. It was great to see you. And Aaron Patzer, it was great of you to be back. Mint.com. If you want to get your financial life in order, that's where you go.
It's good stuff today. Amazing stuff today.
It's good to see you too, Tracy.
Well,
Burns.
thank you. You too. Thanks for being with us today. Your questions, your money here on the Fox Business Network.
Next
Take
week.
care.